So you're looking in the Deep River Guernsey area.
Yeah, in that area, in that kind of cone shape, I guess.
Is that the area where Mollie was ultimately found?
Yes.
And the reason that area was focused on was because that was where her cell phone last pinged, right?
That was where, I don't know, a technical term, that's where we were told that there was that the phone powered off, or that was the last known location of the phone.
Okay. And that's what led you to an individual named Wayne Cheney?
Yes.
Because his home was near there.
Yes.
And Mr. Cheney, did you canvass or search his area?
Yes.
And what was the connection or the attraction to Mr. Cheney as someone of interest?
Basically, Wayne Cheney lived in the area, or does as far as I know still. He'd had a kind of history of no contact order violations, just kind of a reputation as being a little different around women, I guess, to put it. All we knew in those first days were that was where her phone was. We didn't have anything solid leading to anybody. We were.
Did you or any other law enforcement, to your knowledge, have any tips regarding Wayne Cheney and his involvement in this investigation?
That's possible, but I couldn't tell you for sure.
Would you agree with me that if there were a tip involving someone who had a history of violence against women, or perhaps being sexually deviant, in that quadrant of the county, that'd be something law enforcement would want to follow up on?
Yes.
And tell me why that is.
Well, we had a missing 20-year-old under suspicious circumstances. Unlike her, we also learned through that FBI phone analysis that she was jogging, and eyewitness accounts that she had been jogging on 385th Avenue. She had her phone with her. There was some kind of what they called event at a certain point along 385th Avenue, and all of a sudden her phone is traveling like 55 or 60 miles an hour south down a gravel road, and then it just shuts off in the middle of nowhere.
Wait, excuse me. Wayne Cheney lived on 470th Avenue, correct?
Yes.
And Mollie's body was found on 460th Avenue, correct?
Yes.
So basically, Wayne Cheney lived about a mile south of where Mollie's body was found, and perhaps I think a little bit to the west, right?
Yes, that's right.
Now, were you involved in any canvassing of 460th Avenue?
Yes.
Did you talk to the residents up and down 460th Avenue?
Yes.
Did you talk to anybody who resided in the 2400 block of 460th Avenue?
I don't believe I did. Somebody probably did, but I don't recall going that far personally.
Would it be important in your training, education, and experience to talk to the people who lived immediately in the area where Mollie's body was found?
Yes.
And why is that?
I'm sorry?
Why is that?
Well, we would want to know if they saw anything or had any information that would be useful. Saw anything suspicious around that time?
Do you know whose property Mollie's body was found on?
I believe the last name is Bear.
Okay. Do you know who owns the property immediately adjacent to the west of Mollie's body?
I don't.
If I gave you the name Ron Pexa, would that jog your memory?
Immediately to the west?
Correct.
Yes, I did. I did go there. I remember talking to him.
You did talk to Ron Pexa?
Yes.
And why did you talk to Mr. Pexa?
I believe we had some information come in about him. I don't recall specifically what it was. I went there with a couple of other agents and we talked to him for, I don't know, a half hour.
Was that recorded?
Not that I know of.
Was a report made of that?
Not by me.
Did Mr. Pexa tell you he was a law enforcement officer?
Yes. or retired or part-time, or I don't remember.
And the information you received about Mr. Pexa, please tell me what it was.
I don't remember where it came from. I don't remember.
Did the report involve him being sexually violent in the past?
It could have. I don't really remember.
Was this before or after Mollie was found dead?
That was before.
Okay. And he lived approximately less than a quarter mile from where her body was found?
I'm not sure about the distance, but nearby.
If his address is 2410 460th Avenue,
That sounds about right.
that's about where her body would have been found.
Yeah, that
right?
could be accurate, yeah.
And if Mr. Pexa, I'm assuming that if he had a history of violence against women, that's something you would have followed up on?
Yes.
You recall who the agents were you went there with?
I think it was Agent Valletta from the DCI, and I think Agent Patras from the FBI.
Okay. And you'd agree with me that an investigation of this magnitude, that something as important as investigating and talking to someone who has the allegations against them, like Mr. Pexa, those would be documented, wouldn't you think?
I would think. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't.
You weren't the investigating officer, so you necessarily wouldn't do it, right?
I didn't. I didn't. I don't think I had anything on Mr. Pexa.
Okay. But you had a lot on Mr. Cheney.
Not really. I mean, he was interviewed at least once that I know of, and I know he was looked at very closely.
Okay. He was
Very closely. He was looked at
Right.
and eventually cleared.
Okay. He was interviewed at least twice, right?
I think so.
His property was searched, right?
I believe so.
And to your recollection, Ron Pexa, his property wasn't searched, was it?
I believe we did.
And can you tell me what that property search entailed?
We were in his house. We walked through some outbuildings.
Was that quarter-mile stretch between where Mollie's body was ultimately found and Mr. Pexa's house, was that searched by volunteers?
It could have been. I know we didn't do it that day.
Was Mr. Pexa ever brought into the fire department and officially interviewed?
Not that I know of.
Okay. Do you know if he denied any type of sexual deviance or violence against women?
I don't remember him being asked that specifically, but it's possible.